Zimbabwe, we observe a country in this millennium that has had a severe hyperinflation. And we define a hyperinflation arbitrarily as a situation where the price level, the average level of prices, is rising at a rate of more than 50% per month. It's completely arbitrary, but it's unusual to observe this in modern day economies, but we do observe it, and we've observed it in Zimbabwe. We observe it currently in Venezuela. We saw something like this in the Ukraine and in ex-Yugoslavia in the 1990s, and of course we saw it in Germany in the 1920s, 1921, 22, in the Great Hyperinflation. These are traumatic events because they're macroeconomic. They affect everyone's welfare. Everyone notices that the way the means of payment that they're using and receiving their pay is losing value at such a rapid rate that they have to organize their lives around spending it, getting rid of it. And we saw this in Zimbabwe. These hyperinflations tend to shake people's faith in the government because the government is ultimately responsible through its central bank for creating so much money, which ultimately leads to the hyperinflation. It also ruins people's faith in holding any sort of means of payment unless it's coming from the United States or South Africa. And this also distorts people's behavior in terms of judging correctly the relative price of what they can sell, their labor, for the goods that they can actually purchase in the market, which is what they're interested in. Why do you work? You work because you can acquire resources to sustain your well-being and that of your family or your friends. So in the end, it's a no-brainer that in a hyperinflation, people get really confused about prices, and people tend to resort to barter. They exchange cigarettes, eggs, things that are difficult to carry around, gold or silver if they can, but these are all very inefficient ways of conducting transactions. The joy of monetary economics is understanding that out of valueless paper, we can create a system in which people are willing to give up valuable resources for these pieces of paper with full faith that they can redeem it for something in the future that has nothing to do with what they supplied. The fact that money can solve the dual coincidence of wants in such an effective way has made it such an important institution in capitalist economies and also in non-capitalist economies. Because even if you have a socialist economy, you have to figure out how to move the goods across ownership. But there's no reason it has to be paper. It doesn't even have to be bank accounts. You could imagine the case of Kenya where they use telephone credits. Why can't you have a market for means of payment and let people decide in a decentralized way what to use to pay for their goods and what to receive? Well, you have to have some trust, and you have to have some network that allows people to do this. So money is kind of a network. If you live in a big country like the United States or the European Monetary Union, this is not a super big issue because a lot of what Europe needs and consumes is produced by Europeans that use the euro. So this is not an immediate problem. But if you live in a small country like Iceland, you really do care about the exchange rate because most of what you need to consume is denominated in some other currency. So the exchange rate, the rate at which your currency trades for another, is absolutely important and essential.